fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolters World, and today we're here in Rome, and today we want to talk about our tourist traps you might encounter when you're here in Rome, okay? And I think probably the biggest tourist trappy kind of thing that we tourists all fall into is falling into a tourist trap restaurant, and there is a ton here, and you will see that. And the big thing to know, if you're going to look for tourist trap restaurants, basically if they're right next to one of the main sites, there's a Pantheon or Trevi Fountain or whatever, whenever they're right there within a block from there with a view from there, most likely you're going to have way higher prices. The food might be okay, or it might not be okay, because they know no matter what, tourists are going to come back for that view of the Pantheon or that view of St. Peter's or wherever, okay? So do be aware of that, and that includes those little like kiosks and the little trucks that are there selling food near some of the stops. You'll notice the prices are a lot more than if you just went into the little Carrefour shop and grabbed something there. So what I recommend if you're looking for restaurants in Rome is, instead of eating right by some of those main sites, walk 2, 3, or 4 blocks away from that, and you'll notice the farther you get away, the more Italian you hear, the more locals you see in the restaurants, and you also notice that the prices come down as well. So some other things to think about when you're looking at a restaurant to debate if it's a tourist restaurant: if it has like 5 or 6 languages in their menu, if all of their menus have lots of pictures in it, it's probably going to be more of a tourist trap restaurant than a tourist restaurant. Also, if their carbonara does not have guanciale in it, it is not a place for you, because guanciale is how you do it here in Rome, okay? Now, another tourist trap I gotta tell you is buying water when you're here. Look, you do not have to buy the water here. The water in Rome is fantastic. That's why the pizza is so good. The water they use in the dough, oh, it's amazing. And you'll see water fountains around town, and you might have to plug your thumb in it to make it come out to get some of the water, but you can drink the water, the tap water here, just fine. So bring a refillable water bottle and do that instead of dropping €1 or €2 or €3 to get that bottle of water, depending where you are. Now, another tourist trap that I see a lot of tour groups fall into is hotels that have great deals but are nowhere near the center. Look, public transportation here in Rome does exist, but there's only 3, but I'd say 2.5 metro lines. So if you're going to be coming in from out of town or from the outskirts, you got to take a bus in, and that takes time. And do you really want to waste time when you were going to be in a city that you want to walk around in and enjoy? So honestly, instead of saving a few bucks on that hotel out of town or farther away from the center, I would spend the money to stay in town. If you want a cheap place to stay, the places by Termini Station, they're cheap and acceptable. I'm not saying they're fantastic, but they're acceptable. That's going to be much better for your overall experience than going for those great deals you hear about at hotels that are away from the center. Now, another kind of tourist trappy thing I see is when you're walking around at some of the sites, you'll notice the little push carts. You know, I talked about those kiosks before, but this is a specific tourist trap. The push cart ice cream place, the gelateria, that's a cart. It's not a gelateria if it's in a cart. You want to go into an actual gelateria and get your ice cream there. That's going to be much better than the push carts they're going by. I know it's convenient that it's there, but for the flavor you're going to get, I do recommend going to a real gelateria instead of going to those little carts that are just selling it on the side there, because, I mean, it works. It's just, it's not as good, and I just feel it's kind of touristy trappiness because it's where you are as a tourist, whereas if you just walk literally like another 50 feet or 50 yards, meters, whatever, you'd probably find a gelateria instead. These next tourist traps are a little different because they're tourist traps you really have to visit when you're here, but they're things that sometimes people get really frustrated about when they do come to Rome, and that is going to the Colosseum and going to the Vatican and doing the Vatican museums, because both of them have lines from hell, and there's tourist traps that'll get you to sign up for tours to help you skip the line. My advice to you with those things: if you're going to the Colosseum, which you should, if you're going to go to the Vatican museums, which you should, sign up for a tour before you come, and sign up for the Vatican museums, sign up for like the early bird special so you can go in and see the Sistine Chapel when there's only like 100 people there, not 2,000 smashed together, because that's going to be a much better experience. And that's why people get frustrated at the Colosseum and the Vatican. They just feel it's a tourist trap because we're all smashed in here. It's not necessarily a tourist trap, it's that you're trapped there as a tourist because there's so many people. So for your sanity, you might want to look into that. Now, another tourist trap, or I don't know if I call it a tourist trap, but a tourist, we got you here, so we're going to sell stuff to you, is the Spanish Steps. When you talk about Rome, you always hear about the Spanish Steps, but here's the thing. They're just some steps that go up to a church. It's not like they're revolutionary or anything like that, and you can't sit on them. If you walk on them, you do get a great view. You can see St. Peter's. The distance is beautiful, but I gotta tell you, the trappiness of it is you feel you have to go there, and then the trap that has been set is that's where all the fancy stores are. And so you see store after store after store of fantastic fashion, just amazing fashion, dresses, men's clothing, all kinds of stuff. And you're there and like, I should go in and check out. And next thing you know, you end up at a store with 2 hours with your wife and you just bought her a bunch of dresses, which she looks fantastic in, but they got me. They got me again, okay? But it's one of those things that sometimes they know that when you're a tourist, they get you a location, they're gonna suck you in. Now the thing is, there's also a number of tourist trappy kind of, locations and restaurants and museums to go to, because, there is the wax museum kind of stuff, and there's the overtop, the tour kind of things, and there's the haunted Rome stuff, which can be fun, but do take care. Make sure you're reading the reviews on different museums to see the level of touristiness, because sometimes it might go over the top into a tourist trap that you might not actually want to go see. And the thing is, there's also a lot of scams you need to watch out for when you are here in Rome. And we actually have a whole video on the scams, from the pickpocketing to the gelato goons and all kinds of stuff that I want to talk about. So watch that video to help you out with the scam side of things. Because I think the only touristy, trappy kind of scam kind of thing that you might want to be aware of is if you ever see like the gladiators or the Roman centurions and they're walking around and you're trying to take your family picture and they kind of jump in the picture and they kind of trap you into paying them for getting their picture taken because they were in your picture with your family. Some of them are kind of cool about it. They're like, hey, no big deal. But some are like, oh, you took my picture, I want my money. So do be aware of that, because sometimes you do feel a little bit trapped as a tourist into doing that because they're right there, okay? So just be aware of it. But I'll be honest, there's so many great museums and sites here in Rome that there really isn't a lot of tourist traps, because everything's really worth seeing when you're here. So do be aware of that. Enjoy your time when you're here. Be judicious for where you go, because you can spend a lot of money, and that touristy trappiness is part of the losing your money when you're here, because you've just spent so much on all the great sights and the great food. So I hope this helps you know a bit more of what to think about when you do come here, so you don't fall into these tourist traps, so you can enjoy your meals and your food and your fun here in Rome.